Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the Texas SignalCast. I'm your host, Joe Deshotel, and I'm here with my co-host, Jessica Montoya-Coggins. Hello, Jessica.
Hey, Joe.
It's good to be back. Thanks for holding it down last week with David. Hopefully, we'll have him on a lot more in the future. But yeah, so the big news I think right now is the ballot is set. So all the surprises, everything we were like holding out for, it's done. And so the ballots for the primaries are set. Voting begins on Valentine's Day. So gotta love it. February 14th. And
You and your sweetheart can go early vote together. It's perfect.
I know. I can't believe it. Our baby is due on February 14th. And what an amazing thing that would be for him to be born on the first day of early voting as well. So that's awesome. So let's talk about some surprises. Were there anything that surprised you that stood out as like kind of a last minute filing that did or didn't happen?
Well, we'd kind of heard rumblings about Carla Braley. She officially filed for lieutenant governor. There was, this comes a few weeks after Matthew Dowd dropped out. So that was surprising. Up in my neck of the woods, we have a couple of competitive primaries for state house districts. A former representative, John Burton, he's refiled. So that was surprising. Our Dallas district attorney, we had some stuff shaking on there. So that was just kind of the things that I was surprised about. What about you?
I was watching a couple of the house races, and I know for sure since my father just retired, I was really looking very closely at who was going to file for that seat. And it looks like his chief of staff is going to be facing off against the county party chair. So that should be a really interesting sort of experience versus sort of political, connections like that. So there was another person who was thought to be getting in that race who would have been like a self-funding trial attorney. And then they decided at the last minute not to get in. I think for the person I'm obviously supporting, Christian Manuel, who was my father's chief of staff for like 10 years. I think he'd be great. And so I'm supporting him personally. But I do think having him face off, essentially one-on-one, is a better path for him. And actually, there was a third person in this race as well that I'm just not familiar with. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And then in North Texas, I'm really interested to hear about this DA race that you did a story on Texas Signal. Crusoe, right? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, John
right?
Crusoe.
Yeah. So, I had read about him plenty, that he was doing all these sort of big social justice changes and really sort of trying to reform criminal justice from the DA's office. Is that part of the issue, or what's actually going on in Dallas County?
Yeah, sure. So I guess we'll have to sort of go back a little bit in time. There was a district attorney that we had. Her name was Susan Hawk. She resigned for some medical reasons. And because of that, Greg Abbott was able to appoint someone. So obviously he appointed a Republican. Her name is Faith Johnson. So she was our sort of interim DA, and she filed to run in 2018. So on the Democratic side in 2018, John Crusoe, who was a former judge, had also worked in the district attorney's office. He filed to run. And there was also another former district judge, Elizabeth Frizzell, who also filed in the primary. So Crusoe won. It was very narrow. It was with 50.2% of the votes, just
Whoa.
516 votes separated. And then he would go on to beat Faith Johnson in the general election. So he's been our district attorney now since 2018. And as you said, he has implemented a lot of these sort of criminal justice reforms. He, said the office would no longer prosecute low-level marijuana possession. He also said that they would not prosecute necessary theft items, so stuff like, toiletries or food, if it was less than $750. Now, this very much rankled Abbott and the Republicans. So he and Abbott have very much clashed over the years. And Abbott will be supporting, I believe, Faith Johnson, who has refiled on the general election side. And Crusoe will also be facing off against Judge Elizabeth Frizzell on the primary side. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. But as you said, like these offices are very, very important. And since taking into office, there's been some much needed reform that's happened in Dallas County because Crusoe has led the way.
Yeah. So has his opponent expressed what sort of her impetus for getting back in the race? I mean,
It
just
is.
how close it was before, or like,
It's funny. She has a very limited social media presence. In fact, when I was kind of searching on Twitter, I only found things again from sort of 2018. And so, maybe I think it being close, is reason enough. And then, for Faith Johnson, I think that, she was technically our former district attorney. So,
Interesting. Well, I guess, yeah, she misses it, huh? So, yeah, I mean, so we have our own ballot set now for statewide candidates and on the Democratic side, and it's hard that it always has to be sort of like fingers crossed to the last minute to see if we're going to fill out some of these roles. But I know one was agriculture commissioner. We were kind of like, are we going to get a candidate? And there was rumblings, and finally we did get one. Susan Hayes, she seems to be the one who people are actually talking about and who's going to be running a legitimate statewide campaign. It seems that marijuana is one of her big issues, and she's going to make that front and center. As we did mention that Beto had at one point mentioned it in his launch video, but she is, as the ag commissioner, is going to be making that the center of her campaign.
Yeah, we chatted with her, and she was very instrumental. She helped draft and rally for the 2019 hemp law. So she is like spot on when it comes to this stuff. I was really struck when I spoke with her just how nuanced she was, and a lot of it was, even beyond legalization, she wants to get to a place where, we can actually help people, support farmers, and then also to the decriminalization efforts, much needed there. But also, this is a public health and safety issue. So she cited the vaping crisis from a few years ago. The reason that became such a crisis was because you had these variants that were out there that were sort of diluting the product. And so when you get to a place where you're so behind the market, that's just going to happen. And Texas is at that place. Mm-hmm. So I was really, really impressed with how, it's one thing to sort of talk about like, oh, we're legalizing marijuana and, have the applause line. And she will go through point by point why this needs to happen, how this can happen, and why it also will help Texas if it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad that we have somebody who can speak to that. And agricultural commissioner is, interestingly, one of the few statewide offices where you actually have some prerequisites in order to hold that position or even run for that position. I mean, heck, to be a congressman, you don't even have to live in the district. To be the attorney general, you don't even have to have a law degree. But to be the agriculture commissioner, you have to legitimately be a farmer and own land and have experience like in actual farming or ranching. And so I found that to be pretty interesting. And so to even see her on the ballot, that she has those qualifications. On the Republican side, we currently have Sid Miller, which is basically, he's just been sort of a rodeo clown for, lack of a better image. That's basically a good one, like a caricature of a cowboy. But basically, he's got James White running against him, which I found pretty interesting. James White, ironically, the only Black Republican is James White from East Texas. And he served there for several years now. He's actually got quite a bit of seniority. I'm not sure why he's choosing to leave that role. Now, I do know when he first came in, I'll say the rumor was basically that he thought he was going to Congress in terms of salary. And so like he thought like, oh, I'm going to get a real salary, $170,000 a year. And they're like, no, that's Congress. This is the state house where you get $650 a year, a month. So basically, that could certainly be a motivator when you're running statewide. You get a legitimate salary. but you could do that in county government as well. So I'm not sure, but he's taken this giant leap to challenge Sid Miller, who has, over 1 million people on his Facebook page. He's not unpopular in the Republican side. He's friends with Trump. And so I'm not sure, but I would love to hear from James White as to why he's doing this. You can't count him out, actually. When he was just either a freshman or a second term rep, when they did redistricting last time, he was paired with another chairman, Republican chairman, who basically had the support of the party and all this other stuff, and he won. He beat that representative, and I think that was a surprise for a lot of people. So maybe he's going for a twofer.
Yeah, will be interesting. I do have a story coming out. I'm trying to get to the bottom of whatever happened to Sid Miller's appearance in Borat's subsequent movie film.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe he was too crazy for what's his name, Borat. I mean, he was like, man, this guy's like out crazing me. I don't know if show me up. And so the race for land commissioner, we have a couple of candidates on our side. Apparently Jay Kleiberg is the sort of, I've read, scion of the King Ranch, which everybody famously knows in all over the country. Actually, I mean, heck, if you I watch Yellowstone all the time, and they even talk about King Ranch on that show. But it's interesting because he's running as a Democrat, and that's not something a lot of people might expect out of a legendary, ranching, family legacy. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? I know we've talked a little bit about him in the newsroom.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I know that there's a couple other candidates too. And, David, I know had a chat, David Loeffler had a chat with him. So I'll be interested to see that. You're like the third person, though, I've talked with this week who was mentioning Yellowstone. So maybe I'll have to check that out.
Oh, you absolutely have to. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Kevin Costner. I always have been, but this is just like a whole nother level. He's just like aging perfectly into just like one of the best actors ever. And so absolutely 110% recommend that you get into that. And so yeah, I don't want to mispronounce her name, but is it Jenny Sue?
So yes, yeah.
Okay.
I know she's I've seen her. She might be sort of North Texas based, because I know she was making the rounds a lot in Dallas, Tarrant, and Collin County. So I'm hopeful to chat with her, though that probably likely won't be until January. But yeah, it's just nice to see, because there was this really big fear that we were going to have people like Sid Miller running unopposed, and that's just bad for democracy. It's bad for Texas.
Yeah,
so it's good that we have this,
and it shows our hand. I mean, if we can't fill out a ballot, that's just not good. We got at least have to have like generic Democrat, to like say where these guys are and give us a picture of how many votes we're actually losing some of these races by.
And we're gonna, I mean, Abbott's also gonna face a generic Republican in the form of Rick Perry.
Yes, so generic Rick Perry is on the ballot for the Republicans, and that is so awesome. I think that's hilarious. I kind of wish this person would have just filed as an independent, so that he would be on the ballot in November. But that's also generally considered voter fraud or ballot fraud when you intentionally do this kind of a thing. I mean, for many, many, many years in Texas, there was a guy named Gene Kelly who would always put his name on the ballot. As a Democrat, always put his name on the ballot, and nobody knew who he was in Texas politics. But a lot of people knew that name, Gene Kelly.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, oh, I know, that's really interesting.
Yeah. See, it's not him.
It comes up in my mind of just dance, singing in the rain.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you're very cultured. I think most people your age or even my age wouldn't even know who Gene Kelly was. But anyways, but
I remember there's a I can't remember. It's like Tom and Jerry, but they did sort of like where they swapped out Ginger Rogers, and they had that, and then they did it on Family Guy, kind of like the type of thing. It was.
I mean, it is a very. I mean, yeah, it is transcends sort of like one generation, certainly, in culture. But But the name Gene Kelly doesn't necessarily do. And so, but yeah, so this is another one of these cases where this is not the same Rick Perry. This is not oops Perry, but it's a different one. And so, he's got some handful of names that people have heard before running against him, though. And I don't think any of them are particularly catching steam, but we'll see. The former party chair of the statewide party, Alan West, also a former congressman from Florida, and then Don Huffines of the car dealership fame from North Texas, where you are, and apparently he's now running ads all over the state of Texas, TV commercials. And in Chad Prather, who I think was with the Blaze, and he's like one of these sort of internet, sort of right-wing kind of troll people that they have a show and an audience, and he's like a comedian, and so
I'm gonna have to. I mean, that sounds dubious to me. I'll have to check this out.
Yeah, whether he's funny or not, that's a totally different story. But yeah, I've just seen him. It's pretty hokey, but whatever. But he's just out there getting a name for himself, and so yeah, I don't know. You have any thoughts on what's going to happen in the GOP primary?
I mean, my goodness, that's this is all still a lifetime away in some ways. It's so close, and yet it's so far away. I will say, I think Huffines, even if he does lose handily, which it looks like that very well could happen, he has, though, succeeded in taking Abbott even more right than we ever thought it could be. So in some ways, you sort of lose the battle but win the war in that sense.
Well, hopefully we can win the war. Otherwise, we lose both. If they drag him to the right and then he wins, then he might think, oh, well, you can't ever go too far. And that's kind of what it seems like their mindset is. Yeah. And so we do have Beto finally did, of course, he filed and made his announcement and everything. He's making the rounds, but he won't walk through alone either on the Democratic side. And so some of the names most people probably are not familiar with. Michael Cooper, I think, who is from my hometown, Beaumont. I think he was the NAACP guy in Beaumont. It just strikes me as like, especially people who are tangential to politics as it is, do they know what it takes to run statewide and win? Like, it's just hard to imagine somebody like really gave it thought and said, even with Beto in the race, this is a good idea. But so, everybody has that right. Certainly, Joy Diaz, who I think many people in Central Texas are probably familiar with her voice from KUT, which is the NPR affiliate here in Austin. She was a reporter. I've actually done some stories with her over the years here in Austin. But I was surprised to hear that she left KUT to run for governor, and that just kind of blew my mind. But those are the only names besides Jack Daniel who I'm familiar with. So, but
I'm familiar with that fellow too.
yeah, exactly. But yeah. So I don't know. What do you? I mean, I don't even know. Do you have any thoughts on the Democratic?
I know that Joy, a lot of the reason that she was running is, sort of about COVID-19, the way the state has handled it. I know I think she and her family had contracted it, and she had a lot of, personal things that she went through. And I think as she sees, what's happened in our state, that was a big motivating factor. It'll be interesting with the Hispanic surname. In 2018, there were some areas where Beto lost to a kind of, frankly, very crazy woman who had just very limited resources, but her last name was Hernandez. And that might have maybe in the primary, there were places where she got 75% of the vote. And, so that might have been at that time a little bit of the warning signs that we were seeing in South Texas. So we'll see.
Yeah, it is in some ways a replay of that. But, a lot of the articles I read, it sounds like he's trying to make a specific push for South Texas, not only for the primary, but he knows he'll need to do a lot of work to win them over in the general, as we've seen Republicans still making some inroads. And when we say inroads, Democrats are still basically winning 2-1. But, you know, that progress and chipping away 1 point at a time when we need to be gaining votes is obviously the wrong direction. And so I think that's, you know, the COVID thing is sort of a good segue, assuming Greg Abbott is going to win his primary. Hopefully he comes out, you know, a little damaged politically, even more than he has. But one of the reasons is surely because of the winter storm and how he's handled that. And you know, you were just talking about it as well, and how it's had some effects in other places. You know, I see Beto is going after him for that, and we're also seeing that in some other places.
You know, I was listening to the BBC earlier today, and there was about a report basically talking about how climate disasters generated, you know, $25 billion in damages. It was like much more than the year before. And they cited two storms from the United States as being the costliest. Hurricane Ida, which, you know, ravaged Louisiana and then even went up to the Northeast, and then was Winter Storm Uri, and it was really jarring to hear, you know, sort of these people with these very English accents talking about, you know, what happened in Texas, and knowing that like globally was something that people realized was this huge catastrophe, you know, that killed hundreds of people, and then also did cause this massive damage.
Yeah, we're so used to seeing the footage, you know, from other countries that have poor infrastructure, you know, going through these types of things, and we're donating money to, like, you know, help them. And like, wow, yeah, to see that, okay, that's us now, and that's where we are. And basically one of the richest states and the richest nation is just pretty appalling. And it seems like there's even some conservatives that have been attacking Greg Abbott on this issue. One of the things I want to share with everyone right now is apparently there's a commercial that was aired on Fox and CNN, but it's of conservatives basically attacking Abbott. I thought it'd be good to go ahead and play that. I have not actually seen it yet, so let's see. Can you see can you see the screen there? Okay, let's start it over. Tell me if you can hear the audio. Could you hear the audio?
I very faintly.
So that's actually an old ad. We've seen that ad before.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I've seen that. So there's in this ad, there's a scene of Sid Miller. He's speaking with a Fox reporter, I believe, and you know, he's criticizing Abbott, saying he knew we weren't ready at a day late, a dollar short, I think is also what he said. And this, you know, this was about around the time too when, you know, after in the weeks afterward, there was some speculation that Sid Miller would actually challenge Abbott, and he ultimately didn't. But you know, no, it's very damning. I had forgotten about that footage, you know, of him, you know, sort of like doing the teleprompter for.
I think that's what. Yeah, that's why I said I've seen this ad, because that piece has been used in other ads, I think, maybe. But it is so good. I mean, in terms, it's powerful, right? And that combination of conservatives and other Republicans attacking Greg Abbott is pretty powerful. And I think, you know, it may be for different reasons than we'd attack him, but in this case, it's kind of not, right? It's kind of the same.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's people are very like, actually just yesterday, my power went off for about 5 minutes, and I went into a full blown panic mode. Let me tell you.
Oh, your power went off yesterday?
Yeah, just for 5 minutes.
But that's wow. I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? It was a blistering 72 degrees. So, you know.
I mean, what temperature does it have to be for our power not to just randomly shut off?
But no, it reminded me. I was like, all right, let me make sure I have all my tools set. So like I have learned the hard way on this. I have this slew of flashlights. I have so many batteries. Yeah. I've got my generator. Like I'm ready. Like,
yeah. I mean, quite honestly, I'd rather Alexa remind me and not like the power going off remind me. Like, you know, I'd rather just set a reminder for Alexa, remind me to, you know, get a couple of gallons of drinking water and an electric heater, battery powered. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the state we're in. So I guess, yeah, it's something to think about as we go into technically the winter months, but it certainly doesn't feel like winter. I mean, like you said, it's 72 in Dallas. That's about 78 here in Austin right now. And
Yeah.
it's 4:30. Sun's going
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, I'm going to San Antonio over the weekend, and I was looking at. I think it's supposed to be like 80, maybe.
Yes. So we're actually, and I think Dallas may be included in this, but I saw several cities in Texas, including Austin, are setting record high lows.
Yeah.
So the low for the day is a record high, and I'm looking at my app right now. It's telling me 69 is the low. It's December. It's December
Nice.
16th. So I mean, yeah, who knows? But we also know that can change on a dime, because just on Sunday, we got a freeze warning here in Austin. So, obviously climate change is part of that, but at the end of the day, it's like you were saying, you have to be prepared. I mean, you got to be prepared for anything. And so we've got to do that here. Well, there have been some updates, switching topics a little bit, with the SB 8 and really abortion laws as it relates to Texas and the Supreme Court. Can you just give us a little bit of update on what you know? Because there's been some pretty much breaking news on that last day.
Sure. So basically, sort of the parts of SB 8 are being sent back to various districts and judges. So we're anticipating another ruling from the Fifth Circuit. Unfortunately, this is the most hyper Republican conservative court. This was this was the same court that stayed the injunction against SB 8 after a district judge ruled against it. And it has some very harsh anti-abortion judges. So that is a little grim. However, on sort of the federal front, the FDA actually just literally, as we're recording before we came on, they basically have said that you do not need a doctor to receive abortion pills via courier or on demand. So that's kind of counter to what many states are doing, including Texas, where we do actually have a ban post 7 weeks on that.
And does that supersede the Texas law, or?
That I guess we will discover that. I imagine I'm sure we're going to see some imminent stuff from Abbott
Right.
and Paxton on
Exactly.
that.
I mean, that sounds like, it's a good news, but it always comes in Texas with
it's one of those things where there's ways you can kind of circumvent this. In Ireland, they for a long time they had abortion bans, and there were actually ships where they would sort of send things and sort of go over, and it would that's how they would kind of do that. So I mean, I've heard from some abortion fund groups that might possibly be something, but we'll kind of see what.
So we're going to be airlifting people out of Texas to have an abortion. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Or really the getting the pills over.
The pill. Oh, in this case, it's the medication. Yeah. So it's interesting. Because I usually think of conservatives in the courts as being a little more looking over time and on playing the long game. But there were a lot of conservatives that were basically saying, hey, guys, if you do this move, you're opening this up for the other side to take the same type of actions on things that you may not feel that way about. And so we've seen in California where Governor Newsom has basically said, okay, Texas, you're going to do that and put these basically bounties on people's head for abortion. Well, we're going to do it when it comes to assault weapons. And there were prominent conservatives, and I think you probably even mentioned this, that were saying this would happen. But of course, it seems everything is about the now. Everything is about whatever people are hyper focused on at the moment. And so I think that kind of created a riff, and people just wanted to go full, whatever to own the libs, right? Even if it bites them in the butt or takes their gun away.
Yeah. Yeah, Justice Kavanaugh actually raised
Mhm.
raised that point when they had the expedited hearing about SB 8, and I think also the Attorney General of New York. She was on The View this week. She said that they were looking at something similar to what California was planning. So,
Yeah.
you create this legal argument, and here you go.
I mean, yeah, and it is truly a pro-life move in this case with the guns, because we know that that's just the case. And we've seen, and it's come up actually. Erica Greeter, I need to actually read the piece, but I saw her sharing it in the Chronicle about basically how Democrats should stick to their guns as it relates to firearm safety. And one of the stats that I've seen the Beto camp kick around was how many people were basically on lists who shouldn't have firearms are now basically can go out and buy firearms because of the law change, where you don't need to do the background checks, you don't need to do the training and all that stuff to open carry. And so they're basically just letting all these criminals and all that talk about back in the blue and all that talk about, we need, to be safer and all this stuff. They're allowing these people who have proven to be dangerous with firearms to get them
Yeah.
and carry them
Well,
with no
what do
accountability.
you expect? What do you expect from a party that lionized Kyle Rittenhouse? I mean,
Right. Oh yes. Who now is going to be featured at Talking Point USA America Fest?
yeah,
America Fest.
he got a tour of Cowboys Stadium actually a couple days ago.
Yeah. Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, what? That's somebody's not doing it right. That should never happen at a facility like that. I mean, what is he a celebrity for? Like, there's only one thing he's known for, and that's not something that they should be celebrating at all. But here we are. Yeah, I mean, so speaking of celebrating, let's just skip to at least one piece of good news that I saw this week. I thought this was pretty cool. UTSA and Baylor become the latest universities in Texas to achieve the Carnegie Tier 1 research status. So previously, I know for sure Texas, University of Texas, Texas A&M, and maybe I think Rice, I think is the other one. But yeah, this is really cool. Go Roadrunners.
Yeah, go Bears too.
Go Bears.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting, and my big hope is that people still consider Texas a place that they want to come and do research at. I am a little scared that what happened this past year might scare away some folks,
Yeah.
especially because now we do have all these top tier facilities. But it is very cool. So congratulations to both of those programs.
Yeah, exactly. I think power is necessary for a lot of research. So if we want to, keep the best and brightest, yeah, we're gonna have to keep the lights on. But it's also, as I pointed out, UTSA and Baylor both had very good football seasons this year. So for those who keep up with college football, they're both getting bids to top bowl games. So that's really interesting.
Baylor won the Big 12, right?
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
It sounds right to me.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think they beat OSU, right?
Yeah.
So,
They did. Oh my god! Oh my god! I watched it. It was the craziest thing. I felt OSU. They were at literally the 2 yard line, and it was the closing play. So they had like 4 attempts to just go 2 yards, and they couldn't. And then on the fourth down, this poor he was literally like inches away from the pylon. But that's
man,
football, game of
no, that is
inches.
I missed that. I will probably go back and watch the highlights of that. But
Yeah, I
but
did. I remembered I was just watching it live, and I was just like screaming at the
yeah.
TV,
Oh, it's
and
so cool. Yeah, when you
somebody
watch.
came in and was like, "Are you dying?" And it was like,
Did you?
"No."
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, actually, the last few couple weeks were really great college football games, and I don't know if you watched the Mavs, but the Mavs did lose to the Lakers last
Yeah,
night. But it
yeah,
was such a good game, and they didn't have Dirk or didn't have Doncic, but it came down overtime. One
yeah,
crazy 3-point shot at the last second. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, it was really really great game. I think we showed a lot of heart in that game to not have our best player against four future Hall of Famers on the court at the same time for the
yeah,
Lakers, between LeBron, Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and I guess Carmelo Anthony is like the sixth man now over there. But anyway, enough basketball. But yeah, UTSA, I just wanted to say that they've had a great season. They've only lost one game. They were almost undefeated. And then they lost to North Texas of all
I
teams.
do,
No
yeah, I
offense,
do
but
remember that. Yeah,
they lost to North Texas.
the
So
mean green.
yeah, they were extra mean to the Roadrunners, but I think it's cool that UTSA is getting. They just seem to have a lot of mojo right now. The university has a lot of pride. Constantly hearing from the president, everybody. It seems to like be San Antonio often is sort of like an underdog when we talk about Texas. Everybody talks about Dallas, Houston, or Austin. San Antonio is like, hey, we're like the oldest city in Texas. We've got all this history, but to see them now be really excited about something like the growth of UTSA, their football program, and now becoming a tier 1 research university, it's just really cool to see. My wife Stella graduated from UTSA, so I'm extra proud of her and of them. But anyways, yeah, that's that. So anything else? Anything else you're thinking about?
I don't think so. Just guys, take care of yourselves. If you're
Yeah.
eligible for that booster and you haven't gotten it yet, please, please do that. Schedule it as soon as possible. We're hoping for the best, but
Yeah.
we know that there's possibly we're not done with COVID, even if
Not even
we
close,
want to be.
apparently. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So just take care of yourselves, and be not like the Texas Republicans,
Yeah.
and put the health and safety of yourself and those around you at the forefront.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's another issue that's going to be really big besides the winter storm for Abbott and Beto. And I think it's a sleeper issue because I think people are tired of it. But I think by the time next summer comes around, and then we move into the fall, that if this is not under control, then hopefully some heads are going to roll at the top of the state government, and because we really can't do it without everybody working together, and that includes everything our taxes pay for and everything they're supposed to be doing to help keep us safe where they can. And so with that, yes, please keep it on the Signal, texassignal.com, and follow us on social media and join the conversation there. And we appreciate you listening to us. And if you would like to support the type of progressive journalism we do here, become a Patreon member. You can do that at texassignal.com in the top right, and help us out. And we really appreciate it. So big things to come from us over the next year, and keep it here for all the primary coverage as we move into the general election. So thanks again, and have a great holiday.
Bye, guys.